Kia ora whānau. Let's break down this venison back leg. Now on the hindquarters of all animals, your rump steak is the cut straight across there above. Now because fallow deer are quite little, and when you cut that you barely get any steaks out of it, I actually don't cut what is traditionally known as the rump off. I just break it down in with all the other muscle groups and it becomes steaks that way, because all the muscles in the back leg of a fallow deer are steakable, except for these down here, which is your quadriceps, I guess you'd call them, and your shin bone and shank meat. That's all good for stews and for mince. Right, so I just basically get a nice sharp little knife, run along down to the bone there, all the way down. You'll expose the bone. Then we just work our way around that bone with our knife. Then I come around here like so, through that tendon, and then into there like that. Now we're just doing the same thing. I cut through this big tendon here like that. I come down, always cutting towards the bone, not the meat. Like so. Work our way around there. And we're coming down through this kneecap part, still cutting towards the bone. You should be able to get your fingers in there like that. Bring your knife up the bone, down the bone, and then you'll just have to cut through these adjoining tissues and tendons that hold it onto that ball joint there. And there we go. Nice clean bone. The same thing, we're just working down, following the bone, and I go behind that kneecap and I pull it out later. Working our way down the bone, trying to leave as little meat on the bone as possible. Then we can come down here like so. And that's that. There's our bone, nice and clean. Take that out, chuck it in the sink. And we can look at breaking down our back leg muscles. To start with, I cut out the kneecap like so. Goes to the side for the dogs. All of these muscles are just held together with little strips of tendon and sinew and stuff like that. So you just work through, gently separating all your muscle groups. I'm not 100% confident on the exact names of these muscles, but I believe this is called your round, and now this is a schnitzel cut or a mince or stew. Then we have in here what you call the flat. Now the flat comes right up into the rump, so that's why if you cut your rump you lose those top steaks off the flat. And what you have here, this is actually the top end of the back strap, and that's sort of where all of those muscles conglomerate. You can cut that through there like that, cook that whole as one sort of steak, but I just like to chop it up and use it in stews or as mince. And what we have in here, inside this little ball of fat here, is actually a bit of a yucky gland. So that goes to the dogs too. Trim that really bad sinew off for the dogs. That goes over onto our mince or stew pile. Now the next muscle we break off in here is called the leg fillet. Just gently working our way through all that connective tissue using our fingers and our knife. And that's it there, our leg fillet. That's a steak muscle. This ball of fat here houses a gland as well, so that's dog food. And then you're left with all of your, this is all your shank meat. I prefer to have this shank meat either finely cubed for stews or run through the mincer for mince. And then our last muscle group is our top side. So we just trim out all of that yucky stuff. I like to separate these two muscles. On the top here we have another sort of like, I guess you'd call it a fat cap or a tendon group. So we pull this fat cap off and that goes on our stew pile. The top side is made up of two muscles, so we separate those muscles out, trim the stew meat off them, and that's that. There's your muscle, there's your steak muscles. You've got your top side, your leg fillet and your flat, and then you've got your schnitzel or stew muscles, which is your quads, and that's all our trimmings for stews or mince. Next step is to basically you get your steaking muscles, trim the ends off them, make them nice and square. Get out a filleting knife and you just trim off that silver skin and fat cap like so, and that there is ready to go into the pan. So you can either cut it into medallions or cook it as a whole leg fillet. So we'll put that to the side. Now we've got our top side, trimming up any of this bruising, trim that off. Put it to the side for the dogs. Cut our end square, and then I like my steaks about 1 inch thick. So there we go. That's one of our top side muscles done. Get our other top side muscle out. Cut that into steaks as well. Trimmings off to the side. Now we get our flat out. Trim it up to the dogs. Skin off our fat cap. That goes in with our stew meat. Then you have to trim off this silver skin along here, this tendon, because otherwise it'll make your steak curl up when it's in the pan, and it is very, very chewy. But it goes great in a stew, so just put it to the side for the stews. Square that off and cut your steaks. Once again, 1 inch thick. If this were a red deer or a cow, these are your sort of silver side muscles. But on a fallow deer, just beautiful steaks, beautiful little steaks. Righto, so we have all of our steaks cut out of our back leg. Nice little pile of steaks there. Let's tidy up this round. Trim that one off for stews. Trim that one off for stews. Then I like to cut the end off, and then we can cut schnitzel. When I'm cutting my schnitzel, I like to go almost all the way down, not quite all the way through, and then your second cut all the way through. And what that'll do is we'll give you this nice little butterfly of schnitzel. So see, almost all the way through, and second cut all the way through. Beautiful little bits of venison schnitzel. Absolutely amazing, crumbed and fried. So pump out these last few bits of schnitzel. And there we have it. Okay, whānau, we have venison schnitzel, steaks, all steaks there, and that's all for stew or mince or dog tucker, whichever you prefer, but it's all edible, usable meat. And there's our waste there, a bone and a bit of trimmings. Right, whānau, I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial, and I'll see you again on the next one.